E aí pessoal, bem-vindos ao canal Amigo Gringo. Hoje é sexta-feira, que significa que é o dia de Amigo Gringo Responde. E uma vez por mês no Amigo Gringo Responde, respondo as suas dúvidas de inglês. E hoje temos dúvidas excelentes, muito interessantes. Entre outros, vamos falar do verbo to get e vamos tentar traduzir esse verbo. Também vou falar de animais e se significam coisas diferentes em inglês. Por exemplo, se você é um gato em português, você é um cat em inglês? Bom, mas eu não vou responder sozinho, vou ter a ajuda de uma professora do Cambly. Amigo Gringo Responde é apresentado pelo Cambly, uma plataforma que te conecta com professores de inglês falantes nativos sempre, 24 horas por dia, 7 dias por semana, o ano todo. Para quem quer testar Cambly, para quem quer receber 10 minutos de graça com um professor do Cambly, é só usar o link na descrição ou baixar o aplicativo no seu celular ou no seu computador e se cadastrar usando o código aqui, GringoCambly. Talvez você esteja se perguntando, mas o que posso fazer em 10 minutos com um professor? Bom, vocês vão ver quando eu ligar para a Rachel. Vou conectar com ela agora mesmo.
Hey, Seth.
Hey, Rachel! Thanks for coming on with us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here.
It's your debut on Amigo Gringo. Are you feeling excited about that? You're obviously a big Amigo Gringo fan. You've seen every video.
Of course, I feel I feel famous, and I'm very, very excited to be here. It's an honor.
Tell us where you're American.
Yes, I am from North Carolina in the United States, but I currently live in Guadalajara, Mexico,
Wow.
which is the second biggest city in Mexico.
I did not know it was the second biggest city in Mexico. That's cool.
Yes, it is.
Ok, a primeira pergunta é do Darlon Cesar, que perguntou, amigo gringo, o que é Patriotism 101? Estava lendo um artigo de jornal online e vi esse termo ser comparado com a educação moral e cívica.
Okay, so adding 101 to an expression basically means that we are talking about the most simple or basic concepts in any given subject. So this comes from in American universities, the introductory classes are called 101 classes. So, for example, biology 101, chemistry 101. So when we use it in terms of patriotism 101, this means that you're talking about the most basic concept of being patriotic. So, for example, I could say, the American flag should never touch the ground. That's Patriotism 101.
Right, so it's not really a course. It's a sort of a metaphor, whatever, an expression that means that's the basics of this topic.
Exactly. If you know anything about patriotism, right, you'll know this. For example, I could say, you should use moisturizer every day. That's skincare 101. Anything at all.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah, so you should drink lots of water. That's being healthy 101.
Great, that's a great answer. I love this next question. Edson Assis perguntou, Seth, no Brasil é comum as pessoas receberem adjetivos de animais. Gata, o gato, cachorro, ou cachorra, anta, piranha, viado, burro, etc. Isso também acontece na cultura americana. Do we have that in America?
We have so many examples of using animals or animals as part of an expression to describe humans. The first thing that came to my mind when I read this question was the word snake, which means if you said somebody was a snake, that would mean that they're a very untrustworthy person.
Okay.
The same thing with the word rat. If they're a rat, that means that they might tell somebody something that they're not supposed to tell.
I don't know if they have that in Portuguese. Vocês têm isso em português? Rato? Me fala nos comentários, tá? Oh, I have a question for you. Do you have any idea what it would mean in Portuguese if someone called you or me a cat?
No, I have no idea.
That would mean we're and this is actually true, we are both cats because we're both very good looking. So
Absolutely.
that's very, very common, and it doesn't really make any sense in English, right?
We don't really use that in English, but we do use cat in other ways. So, for example, if you could say, Donald Trump is a fat cat, that means he's very rich. He has a lot of money. Anybody who's a fat cat has a lot of money. Another way to say somebody is scared of everything is you would say somebody's chicken. Right. So, you're too chicken to fight me means you're too afraid to fight me. You think
that
you'll
is
lose.
funny.
Another thing that I thought of, the word social butterfly. That means somebody who has lots of friends. They are constantly talking to different people. They're very social.
Yeah, okay, I got a couple that I thought of. You ready? This one is kind of, we don't really use it anymore, but it is similar to calling someone a gata or a cat, and that is a fox. Usually you'd refer to a woman as a fox, but I think that's more like decades ago, right? Have you ever heard anyone call someone that recently?
I have heard it. I've heard it, but it's almost a little bit sarcastic. If you say someone's a fox or somebody's foxy, that's very 70s. Yeah. 70s
You're
language.
Right. You're right. That's good. He mentioned that they call donkey. They say someone's a donkey if they're an idiot, which we don't really say, but we do say they're an ass. And
we do say they're an ass.
And that's just a synonym for donkey.
There are some words that we use, animal words, that would not be very nice or polite to say. So if somebody was overweight, you could say they're a cow or a hippo.
Oh, yeah.
But this would be really rude to say, so you wouldn't really want to say that to another person.
How about if they ate too much and you called them a pig?
Exactly. That's another way we could use it. Or something else that I thought of, to wolf something down means that you eat something very quickly.
I love it.
So like a wolf, yeah.
Okay, and I got one final one. I do like calling people this. A turkey. You're such a turkey.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, you don't be such a turkey. Like, don't be such an idiot, basically. Like a silly... Oh, wow, so you don't have that. Where did you grow up in the U.S.? Oh, North Carolina.
I grew up in the South, Mississippi and North Carolina, so in the South of the U.S.
Well, I'm from New England, and we have lots of wild turkeys running around, so maybe that's why we say it, because they look kind of dumb when they're just running around wildly.
Interesting.
Let's move on. That's plenty. That was awesome.
Yeah, so
that's
much
my favorite. That's one of my favorite questions so far. Obrigado, Edson. Essa pergunta foi ótima. Ok, agora Robson Almeida escreveu e perguntou, amigo gringo, por que pão não é item contável em inglês? Why can't we count bread? Why can't I go and ask for 3 breads like I could in Brazil?
Okay, so bread is not countable because it can be divided into 2 pieces and it doesn't change the nature of the object. So for example, I have this piece of bread.
What a coincidence, by the way, that you have some bread with you when they ask the question.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. It was just sitting here. Okay, so I can divide this into 2, and this is still bread, and this is still bread. So it's not a countable noun because if you divide it, it's still bread. So for example, meat is also not a countable noun because if I have a piece of meat and I cut that piece of meat into 2, both of those pieces of meat are still meat. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think in Portuguese that would be the same with meat, but not the same with bread. And I think it's because they're often have by individual bread, I should say, what we might call a roll. That's kind of more common.
Right. So we can say when we want to count bread, what we can say is I need to buy 3 loaves of bread. So a loaf is one thing of bread that you can slice, and the plural of that is loaves. A loaf or loaves of bread, or you could say a slice of bread or a piece of bread. And that's how we can count up how much bread we have. The only time that bread could be countable is, for example, if you're reading a menu at a restaurant and you say, you choose between 3 breads. So sourdough, rye, and wheat bread. But really what they're saying is you're choosing between 3 types of bread.
Got it.
So it's still not really countable. You're just saying types of bread and they omit the word types.
Perfect. Okay, let's do the big, important, hard question. Karina Ranzoni escreveu: eu, como brasileira, tenho mesmo dificuldades de encontrar equivalência de tradução de palavras muito comuns na língua inglesa com sentidos amplos como get. Parece que a gente tem que mudar boa parte da frase que contém elas para passar a mesma ideia. O que você acha?
Right, so get is a really common word in the English language, and it's something that we use in a lot of different ways. So the three most common ways that we use it are to say to receive something, to arrive at something, or for something to change its state.
O que ela está dizendo é que tem três traduções principais, que é meio receber, chegar a algum lugar e virar ou tornar-se. E isso vai ser a maioria dos significados.
Right, so for the first one, to receive something, you put the word to get with the correct conjugation, with the direct object, and that would mean you're receiving something. So you say, I get a scholarship every year from my university. So I am using the simple present tense there because it's something that happens every year. Or if I was talking about something that happened in the past, I could say, I got a new shirt today. It's the same thing as saying, I bought a new shirt, or somebody gave me a new shirt.
Right.
Either way, I received it, and I didn't have a shirt, and now I do.
I just want to point out that it is true that, so there is really a one-word translation. In that case, I got a shirt might be, in Portuguese, I won a shirt, ganhei uma camisa. They often use the verb to win or to earn when they're given something. So there are many different meanings. We say receive, but really there's a lot of ways to receive something. But there usually is one word to translate it.
Yeah. But to say I received a shirt would be very formal. It would imply that that this was a special shirt, right? But to say I got a new shirt is a very casual way of saying
Perfect.
it. So to talk about to arrive at something, I could ask you, what time should I get to your house for the party? What time do you want me to arrive? Or if I'm talking about something that happened in the past, we got to the concert late.
So
we arrived late.
Almost always with to get to.
Yeah, almost always. That's the most common way that it would be used.
Okay.
So the last way that we use this is to talk about something changing state. So for example, I live in Mexico. I could say, I need to stop eating so many tacos because I'm getting fat, right? I'm changing from skinny to fat. And so you would say, I'm getting fat. I was just gonna say, when we use it in this way, to become or to change, we almost always use it in the present continuous tense, because the present continuous means that we have started an action, but it's ongoing and it hasn't ended yet. I'm getting fat means I'm not all the way fat
I'm
yet.
getting
I'm
old,
just a little bit fat.
I'm getting tired.
Exactly. So yeah, I want to go home because I'm getting tired.
Perfect. So I would say that, not yet talking about phrasal verbs, those translations cover like 80 or 90% of the times you're going to use get, I think.
Yeah, they do. Those three ways that we use the word to get are the most common and the most and the easiest to learn. The rest of them are sort of things that you need to memorize.
So what about phrasal verbs? So many phrasal verbs with get, and those are things you really just need to learn, right? You need to memorize. What are just a few examples?
Right, so when I'm talking about the time that I wake up in the morning, I say I get up at 7 a.m. every morning. That means I wake up or I get out of bed at 7 a.m.
Okay.
So to get over something means to recover. So I could say, I am getting over the flu. That means I have the flu and I am getting over it. Another way that we use this is you need to get over your ex-girlfriend, right? So you broke up with your girlfriend and you need to move on. That's basically what that's saying.
You know what I was about to say? I get it.
Another good way of using the word get. When you say I get it, that means I understand, or I don't get it.
In a way, you could say that was I received the knowledge.
Exactly.
Rachel, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us. How can people find you on Cambly? What's your name on Cambly?
My name is Rachel Allen, and you can find me on Cambly, and I'd love to help you learn English and get to know you a little bit better.
Okay, awesome. Well,
Okay.
thanks so much for being with us. Talk to you later.
Bye!
O que vocês acharam? Se vocês querem conectar com a Rachel mesmo, podem usar seus 10 minutos de graça para conectar com ela. É só procurar ela usando a busca no Cambly. É só usar o link na descrição. E não esqueça de mandar suas dúvidas sobre a língua inglesa, mas também sobre Nova York ou a cultura americana nos comentários. Também pode mandar pelo Instagram, Facebook ou Twitter. Até a próxima!